the importance of reading lists, Rory.
Yes, the reading lists are, for those of you who've never come across a reading list, they're usually an A4 piece of paper, or you may get them emailed nowadays, or they might be on your virtual learning environment. But effectively what they are is a series of textbooks or websites or resources that cover the topics that you'll be studying on your course. And reading lists usually have a standard offering. If you were studying person-centered therapy, you may be asked to look at On Becoming a Person or Person-Centered Counselling Action, two very popular books. And the idea of the books or any reading list is that when you are studying and you're coming to put your assignment or your journal together, you can draw from the literature in your assignment. So you can quote it. You can quote and you can say, this is what I've experienced. This is what I understand as empathy. And this would be reflected by, and then you'd quote a section of the book and the author. I'll share with you a good tip about reading lists and reading books. Whatever you do, don't think of them like the novel you might have taken on holiday, where you start at the beginning and you go at the end. Many books cover many topics. So if you are studying empathy, then go to the back of the book, go into the reference list and find empathy and read that section, because that's the section you're being asked to write the assignments on. Don't just happily come across it as you start at the beginning of the book and work your way through. So with academic books, they're academic reference books. You go to the back, you'd find the topic you're studying, and you go to that page, and then you go to that chapter in the book, and that's the chapter you should read. Don't waste time reading the entire book unless you're asked to. It would be my observation. It saves a lot of time. You can get to the crux of the matter, get to the meat on the bone, as they sometimes say.
And with that, Rory, so many academic books are not written in a way that it would be a page turner and a cover-to-cover read. They're not there to hook you and travel you along a narration or a story. They're there to give you research and facts that have been found so that you can base your practice on them. That's why we reference them. We're referencing somebody else's work. And very often you speak there about maybe empathy, Rory, you maybe covering empathy in your university. So you might go to your recommended reading beforehand, go to the back, go to the index, look at where is empathy, and then go and read up a little bit on empathy in preparation before going in. And then maybe go and read up a little bit about empathy on coming out of your lecture, because most of the time your lecturers are going to be basing what they're teaching you, the slides that they put up and the lectures that they do, on the recommended reading, because it's the research, it's the theory that underpins the practice that we do. And I know with my daughter, when she started in university and she got her recommended reading list, they were really thick books, Rory, lots of really thick books. And she felt overwhelmed because she felt that there was a requirement that she had to read all of these books and know exactly what was in these books. And you need to reference the books. And I have to say, Rory, there are some books that are a good read cover to cover as well, that you can actually read it and enjoy it and go, wow, I actually enjoyed reading the whole of that book. But yeah, definitely dip in, dip out when needed, because seeing the books as I have to read all of these can put up a barrier. It can lead to the books being pushed further and further away, and a feeling inside of, oh, I haven't got the time with all my coursework and everything I'm doing to read these books in any depth. And it's a sad day, it really is, that when you come to write your assignment, it's the first time the book is opened. You almost want that when you come to write the assignment, you're opening the books, and this is the benefits of having your own books, and you're going over all the bits that you highlighted in preparation for your lessons and after lessons, or maybe what was said in a lesson by your tutor to be important. If you take one of these highlighter pens and highlight them, when you're going to your assignments, you're not seeing this information for the first time. You're revisiting it. And if you've made notes and you've highlighted some areas that are shown to be important, it makes life a lot easier, and it can take a lot of the anxiety from preparing for assignments out of the way, Rory.
Absolutely. And don't be worried if you go to the page in your book and you read it and you think, I just don't understand any of that. The way to frame that in your mind is, I don't understand any of that yet. Because what happens is that when you read it, things might not make any sense. It's only when you go to the lesson and you may do some skills practice, or you may talk with a peer or the lecturer may deliver the lecture and discuss empathy or whatever you're studying in a different way, then you can go back to the book and it makes more sense. I think there are very few people who go to study something for the first time, pick a book up, look at the reference text and go, oh, yes, I fully understand it now. You may get an understanding or a flavour of it, but it does take quite a bit for the information to settle in. So be prepared for that. Don't worry if it doesn't go in the first time. Doesn't mean that you're not good enough. That's the process of learning. Learning is about repetition and about revisiting and looking and saying, it said this, but actually does it mean this? Or is this how I understand it? So don't run away from the books, is what I'd say. Read them before your lesson, take your lesson, speak with your peers, then read them after. And eventually it will settle in. You'll look at it and you'll go, that really does make sense. But I can't tell you, Ken, over the years how many students were literally terrified of books.
I think that I may have found myself amongst them. I look back to my journey through school, and there was the old reading out loud in front of the class back in my day. I'm dyslexic. It was a horrendous experience. It really was. I felt that I sounded not as developed as the other students, and it brought up all kinds of things inside me. And even today, when I look at a big, thick book, I get a little twinge of anxiety. It's still there. It's still rooted in there. And it's those relationships to books. And I guess what changed it for me was knowing that I don't have to read them cover to cover. That's really helpful. Knowing that I can highlight the bits that are important as I'm going through, because now I'm not just reading, I'm doing another activity. I'm actually highlighting what I think is more important. And that, for me, helped retain. And then, Rory, my secret weapon that I found, which was taught to me by my daughter, was little sticky notes, these little mini sticky notes that people put little notes on and dash around, and they can be all different colours. I had all different colours, and I'd stick them in the book, sticking out on the important parts. And I felt a sense of achievement that as I was coming through to write my assignments, I had little sticky notes sticking out just with what that topic was on it, and I could find the place in the book immediately, and I felt like I had it all together, Rory.
Absolutely. And academic textbooks, they're your books. You bought them with your money. Obviously, if you got them from the library, I wouldn't recommend that you start using a highlighter pen. But if they're your texts, you go in and you highlight the text, you underline them in pencil, you put notes in the margins, because they are a study book. They're a tool. They're not something to be put on a shelf and polished with a duster. They're an academic tool to help you gain your qualification. And I think Ken's wise observation on Post-it notes are brilliant, because you can put a Post-it note in and put yourself little tabs. So, yeah, you use the book to its fullest extent. Obviously, if you're getting out of the college or university or library, I wouldn't recommend writing. But I bet that if you pick a book up out of the library, somebody will have put some pencil observations in. And the other big tip about books is if you hold the spine in the palm of your hand, you'll notice that the book opens, and that's usually where it's been most used. So open it there, and you may go straight to the information you need. I always do that. I pick a used book up, and I just look at where the pages are naturally opening, go straight there, and you'd be surprised, because if it's a curriculum that's being taught again and again, that part of the book will be read again and again. It'll be opened again and again. So that's a bit of a shortcut.
Yeah. And I think we couldn't finish off the topic of reading lists without speaking, and you've mentioned it now, Rory, that books can be costly. So generally you'll be able to get some out of the library where you're studying. And maybe one of the disadvantages there is you don't want to be highlighting in those books. That's just not fair on those that come after you. But there are also second-hand books that you can pick up. And there's nothing wrong with certain second-hand books, but there are some second-hand books to maybe steer away from. There are certain books that need to be current. It's things like legislation, ethics, those kind of things. You would want to be working on what is most recent. So you wouldn't want a 10-year-old book on the law and ethics. Certainly here in the UK, the law has changed considerably over the last 10 years. Ethical guidelines with the ethical organizations have changed. The professional bodies have changed. So you want something that is a little more current there. But the theory is the theory. So Carl Rogers' theory remains Carl Rogers' theory. Even if there's an update of the book, it still is theory.
Yeah, and usually when you buy an updated book, the update is somebody's written an introduction. When I was teaching, we'd what we call prune the library every so often, which meant that I'd go down and remove books that were no longer useful. And the ones that I removed were usually ethics, anything to do with legal information. And as codes of ethics change, the books that are written around the codes of ethics and explaining what they are change as well. You can buy books very inexpensively on auction sites or in Facebook groups, but the ethics books or law books, best to buy brand new to be up to date. You don't want to be writing old stuff in your assignment, do you? That's the
You
thing.
don't, Rory.